Welcome to Stormin Chocolate. I'm Stormin Norman. Today's song is number 44, Thank You by Alanis Morrissette from supposed former infatuation junkie.
You're welcome.
By the way, there's an Easter egg at the end of the video, so please stay tuned for it. Alanis Morrissette is an outlier to my musical journey, kind of the same way as Metallica. Back when I tailed off listening to pop music in the 80s and started concentrating on instrumentals and synth-based artists, I didn't close the door completely. There were a couple of songs that snuck through, like 1 Week from Bare Naked Ladies in 1998, Kryptonite by Three Doors Down in 2000, and Len's Steal My Sunshine from 1999, included in the Go soundtrack. Few artists after 1990 made it into my iTunes library, and the aforementioned Metallica had a pair, Nothing Else Matters and Enter Sandman, both from the same album. But only Alanis had me go back and acquire material from her back catalog, and it was thanks to today's song. Thank You was the first single from her 1998 album, Supposed Former Infatuation Junkie, the follow-up to 1995's Jagged Little Pill, her big breakout record. Thank You hit number 1 in Canada, her hometown, and number 1 on several lists in the US, but was only a top 20 on Billboard's Top 100 chart.
Well, it was Hot 100.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. That's why I didn't say I don't give a shit. It represented a departure from her previous work, but I'll explain more in a bit.
Canada is not a town, by the way.
That's what makes it funny. Alanis was born in mid-1974 in Ottawa, Canada, which is their country's capital city. As the third child in the Morrisette family, behind her brother Chad, born 3 years before, and her twin Wade, who popped out 12 minutes earlier. Her family spent a 3-year tour in Germany starting in 1977 in the town of Lahr, down in the southwest of West Germany, where the Autobahn runs from Frankfurt to Basel in Switzerland. This means that our timelines overlap for a couple years while I was in the German Midlands in the aforementioned Frankfurt am Main doing my 3-year tour. Her parents were working as teachers at the local airbase, which was originally French, then changed to a Canadian Army base. It was converted in 1994 from a military outpost to the city's commercial Flughafen. After returning to Ottawa, Alanis started taking dance lessons and ran through some 8 years of Catholic schooling before attending the Glebe Collegiate Institute for her high school years. During these years, she scored a 2-record deal with MCA and released the album Alanis in 1991 and Now Is the Time the following year. Both were Canada only and were relatively successful, with Alanis going platinum and both albums having 3 top 40 singles. But Now Is the Time only sold half as many records as Alanis, so MCA saw the writing on the wall. Morissette's publisher introduced her to manager Scott Welch, who suggested that she move to Toronto and start collaborating with other writers to help take advantage of her spectacular voice. After graduating high school, she did just that, but none of her collaborations north of the border would make it to her subsequent albums. After a relocation to Los Angeles, she met producer and songwriter Glenn Ballard in her watershed moment. Glenn believed in her talent so much that he let her leverage his studio, and instead of trying to mold her to his vision, he concentrated on getting the best sound out of the artist. This had the effect of freeing up Alanis to craft some truly emotional music. This collaboration produced 1995's Jagged Little Pill. Every label turned down the album except for Maverick Records. Initially, the thought was it was good enough to sell enough units to fund a follow-up, but boy, were they wrong. I mean, they were so wrong they were right, or vice versa. Anyway, the party got started when KROQ, or K-Rock, started playing the scathing "You Oughta Know." This fresh, emotional voice resonated with women of all ages and helped drive the further success of singles "You Learn," "Hand in My Pocket," "Ironic," "Head Over Feet," and "All I Really Want," the album's opening track. The album won 5 of the 9 Grammy Awards it was nominated for in the following year: Album of the Year, Best Rock Album, Best Rock Song, and Best Female Rock Vocal Performance for "You Oughta Know," and Best Long-Form Music Video for the album's live performance recording. The album has sold over 17 million copies in the US alone and over 33 million worldwide. We'll talk more about these songs when they rotate into this playlist. I became aware of Alanis towards the tail end of Jagged's run with the peaking of its 5th single, "Head Over Feet." I was captivated with the lyrics, especially its turning of the phrase, "head over heels." And I think much of that song reflects the wooing of my wife while we were in college. "Head Over Feet" was released as a single in September of 1996, and its music video became one of the top requested the following month. So it was definitely on the radio stations my wife frequents, and I was apt to catch glimpses of it. But it would still be 2 years before today's song, "Thank You," would be released as a single, and during this interim I wasn't into Alanis Morrissette.
Not yet.
This changed when I heard the opening piano of "Thank You," followed by Alanis' solo vocal describing the dark places she was in or had been in.
How about getting off of these antibiotics? How about stopping eating when I am full of? How about them transparent dangling carrots? How about that ever-elusive kudo?
And then turning around and giving kudos to her lifelines.
Thank you, India. Thank you, terror. Thank you, disillusionment. Thank you, frailty. Thank you, consequence. Thank you, silence.
There's a lot to unpack here. First, the song has an A-B, A-B, C, A-B verse-chorus structure with the bridge between the second and third verse-chorus pair.
Hang on.
What?
Is that the basis for a Genesis album name?
Abacab, yes. No. So this is a structure. Abacab plays note A, note B, note A, note C, note A, note B. Those are the notes that they're playing when at the beginning when it goes dee dee doo 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 dee doo doo. That's Abacab, A-B-A, C-A-B.
Okay.
All choruses have the same structure, but the third one changes 3 of the 6 thank yous.
You're welcomes.
Second, Alanis' voice is being wielded with incredible dynamics and precision, and this is what really drew me to her and kept me there. I really consider this voice to be the greatest instrument she plays, and she really provides a masterclass in this song. And thirdly, she must have really been overwhelmed by the success of Jagged Little Pill and those 2 years of touring. To my mind, much of that album seemed autobiographical, and many of her fans related to her that way. And I think there was some expectation that she could continue being this source of catharsis. But she was only 19 or so when she started her collaboration with Ballard, and around 21 when Jagged was released. How much more life experience could she mine in the next 2 years? I could see the pressure of a follow-up drowning her in expectations. So, taking a step back and looking at things objectively to help ground her, we get this yin and yang. While the first verse is a general description of bad things she was experiencing, the second verse becomes more interpersonal.
How about me not blaming you for everything? How about me enjoying the moment for once? How about how good it feels to finally forgive you? How about grieving it all one at a time?
And after the second chorus, we get the bridge, which spells out the message of the song, and how duality provides wholeness, how you need to let go in order to become free.
Thank you, frailty. Thank you, consequence. Thank you, silence. The moment I let go of it was the moment I got more than I could handle. The moment I jumped off of it was the moment I touched down.
I love the way this message was snuck into the song, and the way she tones down her voice to help sell it. I like to think the whole "Thank you, India" is the basis for these thoughts, that some Indian beliefs or thoughts or lessons helped her recenter and come out stronger. After I had finished the script and was looking for good YouTube links for live performances, every time I heard this bridge,
It's happening already.
that's a rule to keep me from looking away. Every time I heard the bridge, I would tear up and my throat became constricted so that I couldn't sing along. So powerful are these words that, looking at a video right now, it only takes the first 2 words to get to me.
Thank you, nothingness. Thank you, clarity. Thank you, silence.
Harm of self is The third verse wraps up the bad with the good. Harm of self is masochism, harm of others ignores their divinity, etc. This reminds me of one of the many things I learned in the early 80s watching Bill Moyers interviewing Joseph Campbell for the 6-hour PBS series The Power of Myth. Joseph quite casually dropped the Namaste greeting, accompanied by a slight bow and the hands held together in the prayer position known as the Anjali Mudra. The meaning of Namaste from Sanskrit means I bow to you, or more completely, the divine in me recognizes the divine in you and our shared interconnectedness. This is meant to establish respect, and this is what Alanis is referring to in always striving to remember your divinity. In another contemporary exhibit, Doug Marcaida, one of the judges on the TV show Forged in Fire, gives all contestants whom he meets at the beginning of the show a silent namaste. Respect, man. So, thank you, spelled with a U and not the full word, was my opening into Alanis Morissette's catalog. I went back and started appreciating all of the singles from Jagged Little Pill and have them in my favorite vocals playlist. Not all of them are representative of my life, except Head Over Feet, but I do respect the songwriting and the performance. And speaking of which, I saw a recent live performance on YouTube, link in description, where she had a different look. Dirty blonde, if not strawberry hair, more makeup than I'd seen her wear, and I thought, Has she changed? Is this going to be a softer Alanis? Not so jagged? Not at all. She paced the stage like an unbridled beast, just like before. I wanted to mention a couple more songs that are going to show up in this playlist that weren't from either Jagged or Junkie. The first is Uninvited, her massive hit from the City of Angels soundtrack. And the second, Still, from the Dogma soundtrack. Both are extremely moving, and if you haven't heard either, do yourself a solid and look them up. I don't know how Kevin Smith was able to get Alanis to be in his movie, but I love him for it. And then getting her to compose, produce, sing the closing song provides a wonderful bookend to the movie. Still is available on her compilation, The Collection, which I would recommend over the actual soundtrack. So that's it for Alanis Morissette's Thank You from her album Supposed Former Infatuation Junkie. And for all of our fans, here is your Easter egg. Today's song, number 44, is Thank You. Last week's song, number 43, was Thank You by Sly and the Family Stone.
The cringe!
I'm here all week. Next time, we'll peer into our million-mile reflections with Charlie Daniels and his band when we tell the tale of the time Lucifer traveled to Georgia to fiddle about. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.